Experience podcasting with 4 years of history. Inspired by the divine. Experience ML Soul of Detroit.
You ass interrogator, Detroit been around in my face. It's gone.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
Hey kids, it's your old pal, ML. And this is a pre-recorded issue because Marc Magdalene is rolling the rock back for our annual celebration of Easter. And so we are on the road.
Yeah, you do. You go places all the time. I don't know what you're talking about. I go to Europe like 5 times a year.
Actually, I'll be going to Ireland, Denmark, and Iceland.
When's that?
In about a month. So.
Oh.
Yeah, but
Do we have a contingency plan for that?
Yes, I'll zoom in from the road.
That's news to me. All right.
Yeah, and I'll who knows? In fact, I may take Denmark for us.
Oh, good. It's about time someone did.
And then once I take Denmark, then Trump can take Greenland. So I'll be the tip of the spear, if you will. I'll be a war fighter, just like Pete Hegseth. Although there's one thing I think I will be doing that Pete Hegseth does, and that involves closing some bars and maybe ogling some women. But that's not why we're here today. We are here to tell you that we have some great bonus episodes. These bonus episodes are the ones that our soulmates get every month. Well, sometimes we take a couple of the best ones and we put them together so that we can sneak away and get a week off. And this week we've got Rob Wolchek with just some great stories from his career, and Darren McCarty talking about some of the coaches he really likes and one in particular that he cannot stand. I don't know that you'll be able to guess which is which, but it may be pretty obvious why he feels that way once you hear Darren start talking about it. In the meantime, we want to thank our sponsors who are here with us every week, and they're always there to serve you, whether we're here or not. The first one's Luke Nowacki, and he tells you that Kathy Ireland has never spoken to Luke Nowacki, although I think a lot of other pretty good-looking women have. Actually, now that I think about it, every celebrity that's gone broke has never spoken to Luke Nowacki, so maybe you shouldn't take that chance. Call or text Luke at 248-663-4748. That's 248-663-4748. Who knows, maybe you can find a way to get your own Champions Club ticket so you're not trying to weasel them from Drew like some people we know.
What?
Yeah, who, what?
It's crazy.
Attacking the buffet. And if you call Luke and Pinnacle Wealth Strategies, they'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. member FINRA SIPC.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent.
Mosaic Wealth.
Inc.
We're also brought to you by Detroit City Football Club. As you know, we're big fans of DCFC, and they are going to be back in town on Saturday. That's April 11th at 4 p.m. at Keyworth Stadium, playing the Sporting Jacks, which is the team from Jacksonville, not the team that
San Francisco Jacks.
Not that team that Drew Lane talks about all the time. And they're having a great season already. This may be our last season at Keyworth, folks. So you're going to want to get out there. If you want to do the walk to the match, you can go to the New Dodge Lounge. If you need to get your tickets and find out about all the great stuff going on with Le Rouge, our hometown soccer team, our hometown professional soccer team, you can go to Detroit City or Det City FC. That's DETCITYFC.com. And they'll tell you all about that. That's also where you can get tickets. And I hope to see you at Keyworth because I won't be gallivanting around some exotic resort like my friend Marc fell out.
It's your loss.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
How do you know I'm not going to Indianapolis?
That's an exotic capital, isn't it? I mean, it's one of the great cities in America.
Yeah, there you go.
Unfortunately, the Michigan State Spartans haven't played football there in a long time, but I'm sure that's all about to change under Pat Fitzgerald, who is presumably Irish with a name like Fitzgerald. And if you are one of our soulmates, you can catch our latest bonus episode, which is a replay of our live event at the Caju Cafe where we did Detroit and Irish trivia, a great time with some great questions and a lot of fun. And there's always a good time at the Caju. If you have nothing better to do on Tuesday, why not check out Gabe Gonzalez and the Gonzilla and Friends Jam, Wednesday, it's karaoke. Thursday, the Bill Meyer Group has their jazz jam. Friday, it's Mind Riot, Capstone Volunteers, and the Custodians. And, they're going to clean up. Saturday, it's Ashcan Van Gogh, who I think is a band from my Hitting the Bars days, back in the new wave. What's the soft shoe? What's the other genre, Mark?
Shoegazing?
Shoegazing, yeah. I think they maybe date back to the shoegazing, but that's a big act at the Cadgy, so catch them on Saturday. Monday, Tasha Owens and the Stable Dudes Open Jam, and of course, it's Muscle Madness. All you can eat mussels at the Cadgy Cafe. Always a great time on the east side of the Cadgy Cafe. Feather bowling, fun, you name it. To find out more, go to cadgycafe.com and you'll find a link to Luke, to DCFC, and to Cadgy Cafe on our website. And now here's my friend Rob Wolchek telling us a little bit about how he got to where he is and where he's going. Of course, Rob Wolchek, and if you heard about this from our regular episode, I mentioned that Rob's son Scott was almost not the first Scott Wolchek to work for Fox 2. Rob, can you...
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, you told me...
That's how I feel most weeks.
You told me when we worked together that when you came to Detroit, you were Scott Wolchek.
Yes, I was.
We got Scott Lewis. We can't have two Scotts.
I was Scott Roberts. Roberts. I was Scott Roberts in radio from 1978 on, and then I was Scott Roberts in Fresno as a reporter. I was always Scott Roberts.
Okay.
And then when I came out here... they wanted me to change my name to Rob Wolchek because it sounded better, and I was like, okay, well, that's fine, I suppose.
But you're really a Wolchek. That's your birth
I am
name?
a Wolchek, yeah. My name is Rob Wolchek,
okay.
yeah.
But
my wife calls me Scott.
Really?
Yeah, my wife calls me Scott. All my family calls me Scott. My friends, well, obviously you guys are my friends too, but my friends that know me before coming out here, I was never Rob.
That's just such a TV thing. You say, we already got a Scott. You got to be somebody else.
Well, when I started in radio, when I got my first job in radio, I was Scott Wolchek was the name I was going to go by. And then right before I went on the air, they were like, you can't use that name. It sounds Polish or something. It's, and then I was like,
too
okay.
ethnic.
Yeah, it sounded too ethnic. And this was back in 1978. So back then, you had a name like, Sandy Beach, and,
Spider Harrison.
Yeah, Spider Harrison, that kind of stuff. So
Wolchek plays well.
So literally,
a lot of Polish here.
Yeah, so literally I became Scott Roberts right before I went on the air for the first time. And it was like, what's your first name? Robert. You know what? They wanted to call me Bob Scott. And I was like, I don't use the name Bob. I don't like the name Bob. And then, so I became Scott Roberts, and then I was Scott Roberts.
So how much marketing and research went into Scott Roberts?
Whoever had the shift before me, some DJ in Farmington, New Mexico said, "What's the name you're going to use there, kid?" And I was like, Scott Wolchek. And it was like, they're not going to let you use that name. That sounds like a Polish name. It's actually from Belarus is the name. It's not even a Polish name, but I do have Polish in me, so I'm proud of that. But so then I just became, so that was the thought, was the guy said, well, you can't, it was either Bob Scott or Scott Roberts. So I went with Scott Roberts.
Wow.
When you left radio and then started becoming successful in TV, was there ever a party that's like, I want to do radio at the same time? Like when you got here, you probably could have done a radio shift, or did you just like, that's too much?
Doing my job is plenty. Being an investigative reporter is a lot of work.
Do you miss radio?
I do.
Did you miss it? Yeah.
I do. I told my wife, so about 2 or 3 years ago, we've been going back and forth over this retirement thing for years now. I mean, I was one of those guys who, when I was 55, was like, I'm retiring. By the time I'm 60, I'm done with this. This job is too much. It's too crazy, and I'm too stressed out all the time. And then I turned 60. And anyways, about 2 or 3 years ago, I told my wife, I came to this conclusion that I was going to go get a job at WOMC spinning oldies and doing the full on, WOMC, here comes,
Stacks of wax.
Yeah, Terry Jackson Seasons in the Sun, 1974, and all that. Because I still really like that kind of radio, and I still feel like I like to do it. I still drive in the car and say, ladies and gentlemen, here it is, ELO and Dolan won't bring me down. I'm crazy, 96.
Trying to hit the post.
I still do it. I loved it. I enjoyed
Crazy
doing that
90s.
kind of radio. But I told my wife I was going to do that, and I'm going to go over to WOMC and tell them, just a weekend shift, and we'll call it the Rob Wolchek, radio oldies party or something. And my wife was like, oh, yeah, you're not going to do that. That's, everybody knows you as being a famous reporter,
That's why it would work.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't count it out. I
Yeah,
still think it might be fun to do. I still would do it in a minute. But my wife didn't like the idea. I don't know.
So that reminds me of one of the most memorable pieces that you did that I remember is you busted a guy pretending to work for WRIF. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah. Otis. Yeah.
Otis was his name.
Yes.
Okay.
Otis, my man.
There's a guy that kind of swung at me, if you remember. He kind of grabbed at my. He had the tag on.
Yeah, the lanyard.
He kind of slapped my hand, and then he came after my cameraman, and I got in between him. He was a physical guy.
What was his scam though? Because he had a lanyard and pretended to work for WRIF, but I don't know what the financial.
Okay, so he was going around. So he would go to like St. Andrew's Hall, and they'd have a band play there. Fun might be playing there. And people would be waiting in line, and he would show up, and he'd have all this WRIF swag, and he'd have on the WRIF shirt and all that kind of stuff. And he'd be like and he had kind of a deep voice, and he'd be like, oh, hey, I work for the WRIF. You want some ticket? Oh, we're giving out gift cards and this and that. And he would kind of flirt with the girls, talk to the kids, and then he would get money from them, basically. I can give you a gift card for Olive Garden. It's a $25 gift card, and it'll be a $5 donation to Children's Hospital or something like that. But he was just he was pretending he worked for the WRIF to steal kind of chump change, but he was a homeless gentleman, but he didn't really look homeless. He was a down and out guy, and he was ripping people off using the WRIF's name and, mentioning Meltdown and Screamin' Scott and all these people and all the, hey, tell Screamin' Scott I, and then, whatever. This guy didn't really know Screamin' Scott. And,
what a weak bit of fraud, though. I mean, $5
Well,
here.
yeah, but he was getting money and whatever. And I think also, he enjoyed the status of it because, if you work for a station like WRIF or Fox 2 or something like that, people will treat
guys.
you.
Yeah, you're handing out gear.
You're handing out gear. You got T-shirts and bumper stickers and stuff. And I think probably he, walked into some place that had a bunch of WRIF bumper stickers and grabbed them, and he managed to get a WRIF shirt, and people thought he worked for the WRIF, and so they would be all excited. And there are people going to a concert. So this guy who was probably 45, 50 years old, living in a park, now he's got a bunch of hot girls going to a concert and young, cool guys, let me take my picture. The hot girls taking pictures, selfies with the guy from the WRIF. That's how we knew what he looked like, was because people had pictures of him.
Oh, yeah.
And
who reported him, though? Like who?
People would contact and say,
That's
I gave
crazy.
$25 to some guy for a gift card to
That doesn't
Baskin
work,
Robbins. And then we went into Baskin Robbins, and they said the card was no good. And some guy from the WRIF, we were waiting in line at St. Andrew's Hall. And you know what? I think I got a picture of the guy. And then the people of the WRIF were flabbergasted.
Oh, yeah.
And then they started talking about it on the radio, and somehow it came to my attention, and we found the guy. That was the hard thing, was that we found the guy. My cameraman, we knew he hung around the, where the book Cadillac is. What do you call it? Cadillac Square?
Yeah.
We knew he hung around there, and my cameraman, whenever he had downtime, just went there. Keith, Keith.
Oh, yeah, Keith Jonquist.
And
Great
Keith called
photographer.
me one day and said, I think I got him. And I had Dave with me, and then Dave went up to the guy, and he gave the full riff spiel, and Dave got it on camera, and then we busted him. It was, I mean, that's where my reporting is different, is that, we just looked for the bad guy and found him. We were tenacious enough to sit there and watch. Well, Keith, that was his whole thing. He would sit in the car all day to get a shot of a guy taking his garbage out.
Well, Dave did too, but I was never sure how many blonde women were in the car with him when he was doing his stakeout.
No, Dave was good as well. Keith was one of those guys. He liked to work alone. He liked to sit in the van. And
he loved the jump out. I remember calling one time with Betty Cook Scott. We were on the east side, and I've been trying to track her, and I found her at like a gas station or something. I think Keith was sitting on somebody in Dearborn for you. So obviously Dearborn, other side of town from St. Clair Shores, west and east. I said, Keith, I think I found her. He came flying over. I don't know how he got from Dearborn to St. Clair Shores in the time it takes to fill a car with a tank of gas. And when he got there, it was almost like B.A. Baracus jumping out of the A-Team van.
Yeah.
It just kind of rolled up, tires smoking. He jumps out, camera on his shoulder, and he's ready to go. Nobody loved getting the bad guy like Keith. I mean, he lived for it.
All Dave did too. All of the cameramen that we've worked with. I mean, that's part of the gig. I mean, we've had.
It takes a special type.
I have a new cameraman. I'm not even going to mention his name just because I try to keep the cam. Now that Dave and Keith are retired, we use their names. But my cameraman now, one of the reasons. I mean, he's really good. And all of that. But one of the reasons that he got the job and has kept the job, because other people have tried to take the job, but you got to have a certain mentality. I mean, it's a different animal. I mean, he and I were sitting in the car yesterday waiting to do this lady and do the ambush. And it's stressful. You're sitting in a car. You're trying not to be noticed. You're going through all your questions in your head. As a camera guy, I mean, it's hardcore. It's hard work. You got to have but when you get it, when you get a good ambush and you get the person good, and it works out, it's rewarding. But you got to be a certain type of person. It's not for everyone. And a lot of cameramen think, oh, that's an easy job. You're just sitting around in the van all day. That's better than shooting a bunch of live shots or cutting a bunch of OSOTs or whatever. And they think that being the Hall of Shame or an investigative cameraman is going to be easier. It's not. It's harder, and it's a lot of pressure. And, you only have one take. I mean, it's not like you can say, hey, can you do that question again? I didn't white balance.
Yeah, I double punched. My battery died. Can you just say that one more? No, this is it. And the thing that's so stressful is, again, like I said during the episode, I pretty much knew where my folks were going to be. They were going to their office or they had a home address. With Rob, am I sitting in front of the right house? I've been here you guys, how long did you guys spend trying to find Michael Skupin, the survivor? I mean, that was an epic stakeout, and you eventually got him, but that was nerve-wracking.
With Skupin, we had he supposedly lived in one house, and then we found out he lived in another. Wasn't so hard finding him, but he was a celebrity at the time. He was
the greatest leader I've ever met.
He was just coming off of that the second season he did of Survivor, and he was doing commercials for Joe's Dentistry Shop and, not big time commercials, but local commercials. And he was a celebrity and he had a good reputation. So that added to the thing. It wasn't so hard finding him. It was actually getting him to talk. And we finally had to get him when he was coming out of court. We had actually gone to his door and things like that. But yeah, Skupin was turned out to be an interesting story. I mean, kind of really the only story where I feel like I kind of lost it, one of the things.
Well, you were fed up with him by the time you caught up with him.
I mean, one of the things is that, as I was saying in the previous episode, I go into these things very open. I don't go up to you and say, hey, ML Elrick, you're a crook. I go up and say, hey, ML, what's going on with your business here? And well, I got some people that are complaining about blah, 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 blah. And I usually kind of think about, But with scooping, and I don't ever, even if they yell at me, I mean, one of the things I think I'm good at is that when the crazier the people get, when the guys are swinging at me and things like that, I try to get calm. So the wilder they get, the calmer I get, is what I'm thinking in my head. And that's one of the reasons why it plays, because they're with Scoopin', I was really fed up because he was just going around in circles and trying to act like he was something special.
He's famous.
Well,
he was on two seasons of Survivor. Right?
He was acting very pompous, and I knew a lot of stuff about him.
Now that's a big one because it was a Ponzi scheme, so he's stealing money. I think they also find child porn.
They did
on his computer, so he went to prison. I mean that's a big one. Is there a financial one that you've busted that was maybe more money, or a bigger one that I'm not thinking of?
Well, the biggest story that I did a Ponzi scheme back in 2008, 2009, involving, let me think of this guy's name. I can think of his accomplice's name, but I don't want to mention it. But one guy went to federal prison, but it was a Ponzi scheme that was something like $120 million. It was big. Went to federal court and everything. It was at the time the biggest Ponzi scheme in Metro Detroit history. Why can't I think of the guy's name?
I'll look it up.
The story's not online anywhere though, so I haven't seen the stories story in year. That was in 2008, 2009. A lot of those stories are really hard to find because those were the years where we switched from tape to digital, and a lot of stuff got erased.
And Fox 2 keeps changing their website and their content, man. It drives me crazy. I can almost find none of my old stories on there, which is insane because you'd think a TV station where their stock and trade is video, that video would be easy to find, but it's kind of it's really just a management and a storage issue more than anything else.
Yeah, I think any medium, I think all of the mediums went through it. I mean, certainly they did at Fox 2, but I'm not going to single them out. Right. It was just that transition from tape to digital, and they didn't know how to keep them. I mean, you could go back into the archives at Fox 2 and find a tape from 1969.
But you need Doug Tracy to find it.
2000, maybe. But 2009, not so much because they didn't know, they stuck them on these different drives. So those stories are just harder to find. It was a transition, it was a transition time. But anyways, that guy I'm thinking his name was Ed something, but he lived up in, it was millions and millions of dollars. And he got sent away to federal prison where he died.
And you, I'm trying to think of some other ones. You got judges removed from the bench. That's one of my favorite ones is Khalil Davis, who never went to work.
Yeah.
And she was just full of lies. She was an elected judge. She got removed from the bench.
Yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with my story, though. I mean, certainly
Well, when you shine a spotlight on something, it makes her bosses look.
But yes, eventually she got in some trouble.
And Judge Powers?
He, same thing. I started the ball rolling. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
A lot of times I start the ball rolling.
Well, the one so I've talked to the people who run the Judicial Tenure Commission, and they've told me that when they start an investigation into a judge, sometimes we never find out about it because the judge will resign rather than.
That's what happened to Powers.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you've knocked some people out who are like, you know what, you got me.
Yeah, that's what happened with Powers. Powers was.
Was it Novi it was on Northville,
52-1 court in Novi. He was on the verge of. It was like the day before the trial or whatever they call the Judicial Tenure Commission. It's a trial. I don't know. There's a specific name.
It's a judicial proceeding.
It was like the day before they were going to start this proceeding, and he threw in the towel and called it a day and got out. So, I mean, definitely I started the ball rolling. And this is what I tell people when I talk to them, whether it's about a contractor or a judge or whatever it is, a bad DJ. A lot of times my stories, I know that the Attorney General watches my stories. I know that the county prosecutors watch my stories. So they may have a long list of complaints about it, but then they'll see it on TV. And after they watch my story, it's a lot easier to understand because I put it all into perspective. I've worked it, and then they can see, oh, this guy really is a bad guy. And look at him. There he is saying F you to Rob Wolchek. Now I really don't like this guy, and maybe we need to look into this. And then other people come forward and call them and say, hey, Dana Nessel, what about this guy? And I'm really proud of the fact that I feel as though all of the attorney generals in our state, Republicans and Democrats, whether you got your Bill Schuette, whether you got your Jennifer Granholm, who was attorney general, whether you've got Mike Cox, who is attorney general, Dana Nessel, I've worked with all of them, and I like all of them. I think they all did good work. They all did some of my stories, took my stories and prosecuted those people. So I have no beef with any of them. Like I said, Republican and Democrats, I think, can agree the Hall of Shame is awesome.
Well, no one likes fraud.
Yeah.
That's and that's the whole thing. So I work with all of them, and I don't have anything bad to say about any of them.
One of the more one of the strangest stories you did, and I would argue one of the most important stories was the cult story, the chiropractor on the East Side, who was bringing women into his business and kind of, I guess it was a cult. I didn't really understand.
Is that Rich Fisher's
It was
daughter?
And it involved Rich Fisher's
that was
daughter, but the parents couldn't contact their
heartbreaking
kids.
story.
Yeah. So here's the thing about that story. So you talk about Keith. Keith was my cameraman that day, and I knew Rich Fisher as being a big-time TV anchorman. And if you don't know, Rich was an anchorman at Channel 2 and I think Channel 7 and then Channel 50. So he worked at all the stations. He was a big-time anchorman.
Very well known.
Yeah, very well known. Great anchorman.
They brought him in to try and compete with Bill Bonds.
Yeah,
That's how big a deal he was.
He was.
I remember when Comerica Park opened, there was a billboard for whatever station he was working
Channel
for.
50, with Palace Houpe.
And he was on the left side of it, but he was cut off by
because of the stands.
Because of the way the stands were.
Yeah.
It's like, poor Rich, man.
And Palace Houpe was his.
God, those are names from the past.
I know, isn't that funny? I can remember that. I probably couldn't remember what the name of the lady that I busted yesterday, but I can remember her name. Anyways, what were we talking about? Okay,
they were his daughter.
Yes, the cult. So Rich Fisher. I talked to Rich and I talked to Huel, who was friends with Rich, of course, Huel Perkins. Yep. And we went to this thing, and we were kind of laughing at it because it seemed so silly that this guy was a chiropractor and he had this cult and that there were followers. And it seemed, and we were almost like laughing. Well, we were laughing on the way there, like, oh boy, I cracked my back and tell me about Jesus, kind of making these kind of jokes like this. And then we walked into the room where all these sad parents were, and I learned a lot about cults from that thing, from doing that story. And I did that story, and it turned out really well. Lisa Croft was my editor, and she did a magnificent job, and it was a very moving story, and it was a story that once it aired, it was huge. It was just huge. It was just a huge story. It was a story where, like on Facebook, this was 2014 or so, there were literally thousands of comments. You couldn't watch the story without feeling something.
So he would have people come in, work for him, and just say, hey, I'm special. I have a relationship with God, right? Was it Christian-based?
It was Christian-based.
But they still could not contact their family members.
It was Christian-based, and it was, members that have left have called it a cult. It was, at the very least, very cult-like.
What happened to it?
It's still going.
It is.
It's still going. So, in fact, there's going to be a documentary on that specific group coming out.
Is Stasio still involved in it?
Yes, he's still the leader.
Well, that's depressing.
Yeah, well, I did a story about 3 years ago during the pandemic, because I remember we were all masked up, where one of this kid, Joel, I've done a few stories on it over the years. It's... And I know Craig a little bit now. I've met him enough times. ML would know. Sometimes you're adversarial. That you definitely are on opposite ends of the spectrum, but you have a professional relationship, and he knows I'm a reporter. I know he's for lack of a better word,
cult leader.
Yeah, you said it, not me. Yeah. That I can talk to him and this and that. But and we did this story on this Joel kid who had left the group, and his girlfriend that he had that they had a child. She didn't want anything to do with the child. It was sad. So I've done a few stories since then, and then there's this documentary filmmaker who is making a film on it and has been for the last few years. And this documentary is going to come out, I would imagine, sometime this year.
Is he participating in it, Stasio?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's participating in it. So,
unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I mean, he thinks what he's doing is right. What Craig is doing. What's that?
Is it illegal?
No. What he's doing is listen, don't. I'm trying to think of what the thing. The mind. People, you think of people that join a religious group or a cult or a group of people, whether it's selling, even people that sell Amway and these groups, people that belong to Costco are somewhat cultish. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Alumni of universities.
Yeah, alumni of universities. Yeah, exactly. You can fall into that. That's the whole
nobody
thing.
Nobody goes into a cult wanting to.
So don't be surprised at the power of these things.
Sure.
Is what I would say. Don't be surprised at the power. Craig has a certain amount of power, whether you want to call it a cult or a group or the following Jesus. Yeah. There's a certain amount of power to it. Huh. I mean, as a reporter, I've learned a lot. You learn a lot as a reporter. That's one of the things I like about the job. You learn stuff. Like I said, we went into that story laughing about it, and we left.
It was pretty serious, yeah.
Left in tears, and it still moves me.
Yeah. What did you learn from Brandon Inge's fake dad?
Well,
that was another classic.
Yeah, that was a classic story.
A guy walking around saying he's Inge's Brandon Inge's
once
dad.
Again, like that Otis guy, the fake WRIF guy. The Brandon Inge's dad guy was just, as far as I know, it was just to be somebody. He was somebody. He'd show up and tell people he was Brandon Inge's dad, and Inge was the third baseman on the Tigers then, and Tigers had just been in the playoffs and went to the World Series, in fact, a couple of years before, or maybe even the year before. And then he was going around telling people, and people got excited, saying, "Oh my God, it's Brandon Inge's dad. Oh, I met Brandon Inge's dad." And then it turned out he wasn't really Brandon Inge's dad. And so, I mean, and he was getting the same thing, chump change, but then also the status of it. Yeah. It's like later today, I'm going to tell people I'm friends of I'm friends with ML Elrick in the Soul of Detroit, and people will be like, "Oh my God, you're kidding! The ML Elrick, you know him?" And then they want to take my picture with me and stuff.
Well, I can just tell you from being in podcasting for a while now, you won't even get chump change out of this. There's no money to be made in podcasting.
The soul of what?
It's a myth. That's right. Do we have any swag that Rob could wear to go out there and try and boost his chances of pulling off this scam?
You're the swag guy.
Yeah, and check the closet.
Yeah, no. That was a status thing. People do weird things for weird reasons.
I think he kept doing it too, because we used to get reports.
He switched after I did this.
He became a different guy's dad, right?
Yeah, he became whatever it was. I'm Dwight Inge. He was telling people that.
That's right,
I'm Dwight Inge. I'm Dwight Inge, right? Oh, and then he had just gone into Dwight Inge, and then I came in when I confronted him because I was thinking, oh, this guy's going to really say I'm Dwight Inge. Yeah. And then he said, "No, my name's Tom Harrell." And I'm like, "Oh, so he knows as soon as the cameraman, and he's, weren't you just in the store? Up. Yeah, weren't you just in the store telling people you were Brandon Inge's dad?" And he said, "No, not me." And so that was when. So thank God he stuck to his whatever BS lines. But yeah, then he became Dwight Verlander.
That's right.
Dwight Verlander.
Yes.
So.
Do you think it's harder or easier for people to pull these scams off now in the age of the internet? And the reason I ask why is because I feel like I could look on my phone and say Dwight Inge's dad, and a picture would come up right away and say, that's not him. But people can also make websites that say, Dwight Inge, available for public appearances, and put their own picture up.
I don't know. There's still scamming. I think is as bad as ever. I mean, to be honest, I think it's as bad as ever. I mean, I almost got scammed recently. I mean, it can happen to anybody. I called my bank to order a new credit card because the other one got lost in the mail, and the line got spoofed. And next thing you know, I'm on the phone with, I'm guessing what it sounded like, an Indian guy who I thought maybe worked for Bank of America, because you never know.
Yeah, they have the call
centers, and it
was
was the middle of the night, and next thing you know, I'm giving out all this personal information to some Indian guy who I'm thinking is the guy from Bank of America. And then I hung up, and I was like, then I looked at my phone, and I was like, well, that's not the number I dialed. So that, the technology is, and again, I don't want to get into politics, but the whole faceless, the idea of being faceless and nameless gives people a lot of guts, and you can definitely be faceless and nameless on the internet.
Okay, so Ruth Spencer gone from Channel 4, Bill Spencer gone, call to action at Channel 7, Help Me Hank presumably not coming back, and now Rob Wolchek retiring from Fox 2. Where are people going to turn to when they feel like they can't get any recourse from the law, from regulators, from the people who they normally would expect to help them out?
I would suggest people call ML Elrick at
1-800.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I'm sure they'll still be contacting me. I mean, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, I have I'm easy to find as far as people will still be contacting me. I don't know if I'll be able to help them or not, but
sure. But
people will still continue to contact me. I mean,
how much of an obligation do you feel to keep doing this, because you have helped so many people? And you are kind of a cudgel that people can use and say, well, if you don't finish this job, I'm going to call the Hall of Shame.
I don't feel any obligation to continue doing it, I'll be honest with you. But I do it because I do care, and I'm nice. I mean, one of the reasons the Hall of Shame is successful is that it's real. I mean, what I do is real. I mean, going after the bad guys, like I said, when I'm confronting the bad guys, it's not scripted. It's not like I force myself. I really want to do it. So it's real. So, I mean, if somebody contacts me and says, hey, I got a bad contractor I hired and this and that, what should I do? I'll probably help them. I mean, I don't have to. I mean, I do so much stuff for people that never makes the air just because, I don't know, I just care about people. I mean, as I said, I got scammed recently. Yeah. I feel bad for people. I'm truly one of the good guys. I'm just a good guy doing my job. I don't think I'm smarter than anybody else. I don't think I have any kind of expertise that other people don't know. I'm just a TV reporter and a guy, and I've done this for a while, so I have some ideas that might help.
But you're smart, right? I mean, you know what to look for.
Yeah, I'm smart.
You're
but
smart.
I mean,
you do the research, and most importantly, you're fearless when you confront these people.
I'm just like, there are people that go on there and say things like, I'm the consumer guru, or I'm the man, when it comes to real estate, I'm the guy. I don't consider myself to be any kind of expert or anything like that. Other than that, I've gone after, I've had the opportunity to engage 600, 700, 800 scam artists over the last 28 years.
One of my favorite too was, and I want to say this woman might have been involved with Clark Park. ML, a lady who got her camera stolen.
Oh, this is one of my favorites too.
That was a great story, and that ML gave me that story.
Oh, that was? Okay, that was such...
Yeah. ML gave me that story. You gave me that and Davis. You're a bonehead. I don't know why you... I was telling Marc before you were here, when you now I'm going to announce it to the world. He gave me a couple of really good stories. He's such a knucklehead. He gave me like 2 really good stories, and it's like, really? You sure you're going to go after the the council member whose dog you got pooping in the park and he's not picking it up, and you're going to give me this judge who is, but yeah, no, you gave me some great stories. I loved working with you.
Yeah,
I loved working with LaDuff. I thought both of you guys were super talented guys, and both of you guys gave me some good stories.
Well, the sad news is there are so many stories of scammers, both public officials and just regular folks, that I tell people this all the time. There are too many stories and not enough reporters. And Rob gets to the bottom. The beautiful thing about that Clark Park, now that one I couldn't do because I had a conflict of interest, because obviously I'm involved in Clark Park as a fundraiser. And in fact, our charity hockey game is this Saturday,
I get it.
But that was so
I'm
beautiful
grateful
because you guys used, and the victim was very helpful in terms of
great.
Tracking down. So here's the quick version. Woman comes out to Clark Park for the charity hockey game, takes pictures. Her brother plays in the game. We go to Nancy Whiskey afterwards. She's got her cameras in the car. Car gets broken into. So she goes on, I think it was eBay or somewhere, looking for her equipment.
eBay.
And she knew all her serial numbers.
Crazy that she knew the serial
So
number.
she could find who was stealing it. And so
she had the boxes.
Yeah.
So she had the boxes.
With the sticker. Yeah.
So she was definitive that these people are selling my stuff. And then I connected her with Rob, and Rob took it across the goal line where he figured out who was doing it, what gas station. There was like a mobile station.
And that was Keith as well. Keith followed. I mean, we both worked on it, and we were both out there watching that guy doing all that stuff. But he was meeting people at gas stations, and Keith would get video. I mean, we work as a team.
I just recently watched that, and he had a great shot of
him and the trumpet.
The trumpet too, with his reflection.
Yeah,
but there's it's just like almost one quick frame where a guy's getting out of the fraudster who's selling it on eBay his car, and he could see in that frame there's a new computer.
Yep.
And then there's a wad of cash in the other guy's hand.
Well, and right,
it's a great shot.
And the other shot, the shot that was the hardest to get was. And Keith worked this for 2 weeks. We knew he was sending the stuff from this one post office. Keith sat in the parking lot of that post office for 2 straight weeks. And the guy finally comes there, and he goes in, and Keith was sitting there and got a shot of him packing, putting the iPad into the box. I mean, that was the stuff where it's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
That's why the pieces are so good.
But that's also why. I mean, I got to hand it to Fox too, because they gave us time to do that. Yeah. I mean, cops don't have time to do that. We don't have the government resources to do it, but we knew eventually he was going to show up at that post office. I mean, we didn't know he was going to actually pack it, because who the heck packs stuff at the post office?
I don't know if you've ever stood in line at a post office.
Well, yeah. Well, but so we got that shot. So, that was just hard work.
Fox 2 also let you have a lot of fun, because you would dress up. The one I was thinking of, you would dress up as a fisherman for the councilman that was kicking people off the public slice.
What would you guys call that one?
That is such a great piece.
The cranky councilman?
Yeah, well, that was, and the dressing up really was just because I assumed that guy would know who I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of famous here now. And so that was just a little disguise. I wore the big floppy hat and, fisherman thing, and sat there while all this was going on to my left so I could hear it. And then we whipped out the big camera.
It was great.
Yeah.
It's a great piece.
Well, it's been a tremendous career, Rob. I know that you're still going to be feisty. I don't know how you're going to make the days go by.
I'll come here and I'll be a regular contributor to the
love it.
ML Elrick Soul of Detroit show.
We Sean Windsor has been nervous about somebody taking his spot. Maybe you could keep that kid on his toes.
You don't know, man. I hear it pays really well.
Oh,
I hear it.
That's the funniest thing you said all day.
I hear
we can get you an Olive Garden gift card for $25. We'll just
it's going to cost you $5.
I mean, I got here early, and then I was like, "Where's ML?" And then I saw the limo pull up, and you get out, and I was like, "Oh, he's here, and I'm like, man, this podcasting, these guys are making some bucks.
Yeah, I was delayed because there weren't enough rose petals to put on the walkway.
I noticed that. I noticed that. And then you had the Gucci. I see your Gucci shoes on.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh, is he gonna walk on that dirty sidewalk with his Gucci's?
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I
know.
really
I have to carry him out.
Kind of a rhetorical.
I know. Mark
question.
went out there and carried him. I was like, man, this dude's got it made.
So, Rob, this retirement party, can you tell us where it is? Because I think
I'm not going to tell you where it is. I don't want any bad guy to come.
There's a lot of people who want to wait in the parking lot for you.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's one of the things is that, I don't want people to know where I live or where I'm hanging out and this and that, So, I got people that don't like me.
Well,
I'll tell you where my retirement party is, and I'll tell Mark because I assume you guys like me.
Has that ever happened to you where you're off the clock and you ran into somebody that...
Yeah, it's happened to me. It's happened to me. I
remember some creep watching your house.
Yeah. All right, I don't want to talk about any of that stuff.
We don't need to get into that. But,
I don't want to talk about. I don't talk about that kind of stuff. Yes, there is a price to pay by being a famous investigative reporter who goes after bad guys. They sometimes retaliate, and it's not pleasant. So I have to be very safe and secure and talk about ask Scotty about it. Scotty was a little kid, and sometimes I would have to tell him be careful when you get off the school bus because Dad's got some creepy guys watching him. So it's not an easy job.
Yeah, we've all gone. I've told the girls now. My daughters are 26 and 27, but I've told them if you see this particular guy, and I'd show them a picture anywhere near the house, don't open the door. Call me right away. And,
you got my picture up there. I've seen that. Yeah.
Actually, it was Brian Banks, but that's another story. But and just on Sunday, somebody came to my house and delivered papers I was served for a subpoena for some legal proceeding that's all seems a little specious.
Sounds like no fun at all.
But yeah, that's Sunday morning. That's a rarity. But people who do the work that Rob does, people who call people out, he doesn't have a badge, he doesn't have any protection, he doesn't have anything that you don't have. But for 28 years here in Detroit, he's put himself on the line trying to bring a measure of justice, and I don't think that's putting it too dramatically, to people who can't get it anywhere else. So, Rob, it was a pleasure working with you, and I'm sorry that you're retiring for us, but for you, I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, and I feel as though I'm very proud of my career. And I look back at my work and I'm astounded that I've achieved what I've achieved. And I'm proud of the fact that I've lasted for 28 years because, when you were going through the list of other people that have left the business, it's really hard. I mean, you worked in TV for 10 years or so. Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard job. Doing this is a hard job, and it's hard. I am very proud of the fact that I've lasted as long as I have, and I'm going out on my own terms. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to make the announcement a couple of months in advance, because I wanted everybody to know, this isn't a thing where they're saying, hey, you're too old, buddy, or you got in trouble or anything like that, or this is a thing where it's my decision, and
or they won't put your last package on the air.
Yeah, no, they've been great to me, and I'm proud that I've lasted so long, and now I'm just gonna, tone it down a little bit.
Do you know will they do like a retrospective special or anything of your pieces?
I don't have any. I don't.
That's what,
I'm sorry,
I don't know.
I don't know.
It'd be dumb not to.
You got me. I don't know.
Yeah.
How would you choose though? 28 years.
I'd put the turf team on there.
That'd be
definitely.
An hour long.
The turf team. Yeah. Those guys are great. Get the F out of here.
Put all of them on there.
Rob Wolchek, thanks for coming in, folks. If you tune in to Oldies Radio and you hear Scott Roberts,
hey, WOMC.
Don't forget
Rod Stewart, 1972. Wake up, Maggie.
You heard it here first. We got D-Mac here talking about some of the more memorable coaches he's played for. I was saying in the regular episode, I watched Herb Brooks or Kurt Russell's version of Herb Brooks. I'm like, boy, I really think I liked him better before I knew more about him. But he turned those guys into champions, and Darren's played for two guys who were known for their... They weren't players coaches, let's put it that way. Scotty Bowman and Mike Babcock, and probably countless other coaches. Darren, have you ever seen Miracle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thought it was great. And Herb Brooks was more of a Scotty Bowman than he was a Mike Babcock, because at the end of the day, it was all about winning.
Okay.
Right? And here's my analogy, right? Because I won cups with both of them. I spent a lot more time with Scotty than I did like Mike Babcock, but pretty can read the room. The difference is, if Scotty Bowman and Mike Babcock did the exact same thing, right? Scotty Bowman liked to collect rings. Scotty Bowman did everything to win. So if you were the brunt or you were the odd man out or whatever like that, suck it up, Buttercup. Self-awareness, do better, right? Because he was trying to win team-wise. No matter how he'd separate it, no matter how he'd make it us versus him, it was always about winning. Mike Babcock, on the other hand, was more, we're either going to do it my way or nobody wins. Ooh. Right? So, yeah, which is gross.
So he had to be right. He cared about being right more than winning.
Yes, I would say that. And
he wouldn't want players like that. He wouldn't want players that are like, I got to have...
No, but he's shit.
Yeah.
Babcock shit top to bottom.
Okay.
Who shits top to bottom? You got to shit on the lower guys. That's why it's like you'd have your guys. Like Scotty has his guys. Like Scotty would not yell at me. Fuck, but he'd yell at Drapes about me, right? Or whatever. Or about it. Like he had his guys that he, like the responsibility. And when you take a step back, and granted, I retired in 2009. We're talking about, the perspective when you look back on it of how things were set up. We were accountable to each other, right? And that's why we won in 2008. God bless Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsuk and Nick Lidstrom and Chris Draper and Thomas Holmstrom and the guys that were there. That's why I knew I had to get back in the room, right? I didn't need to play. I needed to be back in the room for some balance, right? Because I've always been the way it was. I mean, I remember standing in the middle of the dressing room going, hey, if you guys want me to go in the coach's room and punch the shit out of them, I will. I mean, I would do that, right? It didn't get to there. And
how different was it, coming back after being gone for 2 years? Calgary in 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
Like, was it
being out?
Was it noticeably different because of the coach?
Yeah. Well, not as much that here's the whole thing. The last guy that I had to prove that I could play was Mike Babcock. And finally, he realized that, okay, I need this guy just as support. Mm-hmm. And because, I ended up playing 17 of the 22 playoff games in 2008 because Holmstrom and Franzen got hurt in the first 2 rounds, right? But that's what I was there for. I was there for the guys. I was there to be Ozzy's warm-up goalie or warm-up shooter. I was there because I knew these are my guys for that buffer. So... yeah, it was different. The one thing, too, is, I'm not just shit on Mike Babcock is one of the greatest preparation coaches. X's and O's, preparation, practice, stuff like this is elite. Blow Scotty out of the water, right? But behind the bench and feel for your team and understanding and sort of how it's sort of how does your king lead? We all Game of Thrones fans.
Yeah,
Which house?
Well, Targaryen.
Well, there you go. Right, which you realize, right?
Are you Kardashian?
Are you Stark? Are you Lannister? What are you? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
Stark.
more about
would want Stark.
Right.
Yeah.
Where and Scotty was between Stark and Targaryen.
Yeah.
Right, where friggin' old man Lannister was more Babcock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I like the comparison.
So if you're gonna look at an analogy now, I mean. Self-awareness, because what blows you away is and I always say this, another way you like what I gave on the about if you don't lose a lesson.
Yeah, if you take the lesson, it's not a loss.
Right, exactly. Along the same lines is that did it blow anybody else? If you take enough time, everybody will always tell on themselves. So you saw the stuff, and then I retired in 2009, and then you saw the way that things got a little. Got worse. And you about
and
Babcock
fell apart in Toronto.
But no. And then here's the one thing, right? Is you come back and you actually get another opportunity after being away, and then you can't have the self-awareness to not fuck that up by doing the same stupid shit.
Well,
I'll tell you the best quote I've ever heard, right? When it comes to Mike Babcock, and it's by Chris Chelios.
Okay.
Right. And I would, you know me, Mark, I would never, unless Chelly wanted this to make sure it would be known.
Yes.
Yeah, probably smart.
There's too many great people in the game of hockey to have a guy like that.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
What's that tell you?
Yeah, and he's played for a few. So one of the things that strikes me when you see guys looking back on that team is the players' awareness of what was going on and what the coach was trying to do and how he put them together is, I think, is different now. Like they see things that they wouldn't have known at the time because it was happening, and maybe their age and maturity, the pressure. You don't have a time to kind of step back and look at the whole thing. At the time that Bowman was the coach or Babcock was the coach, did you see things then the way you see them now? Did you know what they were trying to do and how they were trying to, I'm going to say manipulate. I think that's the right word. The players to get you guys to do what they think needed to be done to get where they wanted to go.
Here's the best part with Scotty, right? Like if you try to figure him out, it'd drive you insane. So she just realized that he was like Gary Kasparov or Bobby Fischer, like the grand chess players. They were 5 moves ahead. Yeah. So just get on board. And know that whatever you might not agree, whatever, but it's going to play out. And he earned that. And
you just trust him.
Because what he made us, right, is to rely on each other. And I always say this, and you can take this into any of our Detroit sports teams now as we move, the Pistons and Red Wings moving into the playoffs, Tigers, big season, Lions, whatever. In the locker room, when the guy next to you is more important to you than you are to yourself, then you're ready to win. And for us, that's what we had. So whether we were somebody was motherfucking him, like we called him Rain Man, not to his face, not to his face, but 272 toothpicks, like he was up, but he was so far ahead that he just knew, and you trusted it. His greatest gift is he'd get pissed off and he'd just say like 3 different guys, you go, and we go out and score. And he'd be like chopping ice, and he'd be the smartest guy in the room. Yeah. So you trusted that, but he earned that, right? And then it was just as if then there was always, it felt like ulterior motives with Babcock as you look back. Now, I wasn't there long enough to whatever and had the success, but it was always something self-serving.
Well, Scotty came with a handful of rings. Babcock got his first one with us. Do you think that he didn't feel like he had that foundation of success
it's how you
was he trying to prove himself to you guys, or
I don't know.
Don't know.
He did it wrong. Why do you shit top to bottom?
Yeah.
What I mean top to bottom. Why are you yelling at why are you shitting on Pavel and Hank and Nick? Yeah. Shit on me.
But
right?
Isn't there something about if you take the most elite guy and show everybody that he's no different than you, I'm going to treat him the same way. Doesn't that sort of make everybody feel like
fuck you.
No?
What are you talking about?
Well, obviously,
let's treat Sergei.
I wasn't there in that cup-winning season. I got cut in practice.
Because there's and talking as a soldier, a foot soldier, you better treat those guys better.
Okay.
Like there's
just so you aspire to that.
Okay, here the respect is the same.
Okay.
Right, the respect you as a human being, as a player, and what you do for the game. But no, it's more, so it's not the hockey, it's the personal.
Okay.
It's being too personal and then going at, you want to get a point across to a big guy. Sometimes you don't have to get in their, there's certain ways when they make a bad play and stuff that you're giving them shit, but it's like the constant, not good enough, not good enough to whatever. You save that for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Right? Because then I go out there all mad and then I go rip somebody's head off and it helps the team. Right? Where does it help the team when you're beating down your top guys?
Okay. And when everybody knows they're the top guys, right? I mean, it sort of seems so.
You want to get the best of them. Like I said, and I stand by this. If I coached the bench in the 2009 Stanley Cup playoffs, we win.
Yeah.
because of the way that Datsuk and Zetterberg were overused after, like but you also have to understand what it's like to play all these high profile games for years, right? Like you look back in the night, Nick Litzford played over 400 games in 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Right? When you get to 08 and 09, when you're back to back, you got to understand
load management. Well,
more like that.
One of the great Alex Ferguson stories I heard, and for folks who don't know him, he's a legendary coach of Manchester United.
That was Igor Larionov's dude.
And I've always heard, you want to treat everybody the same. You want to have an egalitarian locker room. But some of the players were saying, if you showed up and we're supposed to be wearing suits on the road and you didn't, or your tie was crooked, Sir Alex would chew your ass up. And then Eric Cantona would show up in like a tracksuit, and everybody'd say, oh, he's going to get Eric, he's going to get the king because and then he wouldn't. And then they'd say, well, wait a minute, why didn't you bust his balls? And he's like, he's French. He always had a way to kind of like let the big guy off the hook because he knew he was the big guy and he had to set standards. But in this case, cracking Cantona's balls was not going to help the team. He's probably going to retire again. And, is that the sort of thing you're talking about? Where
like in different guys, knowing you're different guys.
Okay.
Right. So in that aspect, right, like are you going to, because you know that if you let Sergei Fedorov or Cantona wear that Gucci suit, plays a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right. And the rest of us can suck it up because it's different strokes for different folks. And it's like, I don't like what are we talking about? When does society get so like that's just soft? Like to me, that's just soft. Like there's a pecking order.
Yeah.
There should always be a pecking order. Now it doesn't it has nothing to do with you don't lose respect. You still get respect at the bottom for what you do, but come on, man.
Not everyone's the same.
How do you that's the greatest thing about Scotty Bowman is that he knew everybody's buttons. He knew how to get he knew to get the most out of me is pretty much leave me alone and have drapes. Like Scotty, like we only had like a powwow like once or twice. Right. And it was.
How did he figure that out, though, to know that that's the best way to deal with you? Like how,
because it's the same thing as if he wanted to piss, like if he wanted to get the best out of Shane, he'd piss him off. And he'd stand behind him and he'd go to bed. Like Scotty was the best. He'd never yell at you. He'd yell at Barry Smith beside, right behind you. He goes, Barry, fucking Shanahan, move his feet. It's not moving his feet, Shane. It's not moving his feet. Shannon would hear that and be like, fucking Scott, like this. Like you got to know what motivates different guys. And it's the same thing as Bill Belichick says, you treat everybody the same, different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like because you care. What, how do you do that? Yeah. Because and that's the secret of Scotty Bowman. Okay. He knew, because here's the other thing, right? And he was like, he was schizophrenic. There's different Scotty Bowmans. Coach Scotty's different than when the kids are there. Then he turns into Grandpa Scotty. Really? Like the relationship he had with my son Griffin, who's now 29. Like to this, like it's great. But because he cares, right? And that's the one thing that you would never know. Because he plays off that he doesn't, but he actually does. And that, like nowadays, that like since being retired or whatever, you run into him, dude. It's like talking to your favorite uncle.
Yeah. Who's the best or the favorite coach you ever played for? I mean, going all the way back to when you were, on Bob skates out there in Leamington.
Yeah. No, I think that I got to give. There's two. Because I wouldn't be the player that I am without a guy named Brian Drum, who was my first coach in when I moved away from home at 16, Peterborough, Junior B. Then I got drafted. But I lived with him, and he was my coach, and he played in the minors and stuff. And he's the one that told me, if you want to make it to the NHL, you have to do one thing better than 99.9% of the rest of the people that play the game. And for me, it was going to be physical.
Okay.
Right? So you had to play physical. So he gave me the sheet. He said, first year in every league, all you do is hit, fight. Don't worry about scoring goals. Don't worry about that. Work on your skills. Be the first one to practice, last one off the ice, all that stuff. But every time you're out there, try to take somebody's head off. Yeah. Fight everybody, right? Because and then when you're young, you establish, right?
And the way that George LaRock said the same thing in his new book.
You establish, right? A presence. Then you're set. Then you get drafted. So for me, played junior B, right? Did that, produced, got drafted to Belleville. Start again. First year in Belleville. I had 9 goals, 17 assists, 140 some penalty minutes, 20 fights, whatever. Next year I get 30 goals, 66 points, still the same amount of penalty minutes. And then the last year I have 55 goals, 72 assists, 181 penalty minutes. I'm either in the box or on the ice. I get drafted Detroit second round, go to Adirondack. 45 majors in the minors, 278 minutes, right? The year before I made Detroit. My first year, I don't know if you looked it up. I think I had 23 or 25 fights. You establish, right? So I got the
And
secret.
19 goals.
Yeah, well, but you establish.
Yeah. I think 19 goals was the second year, but you were...
Right. You establish space. You establish what type of player you are and whatever like that. So me was so Brian Drum.
So Drum set you on the path.
Drum set me on the path, and then Larry Mavity, who was my junior coach my last 2 years, who just pretty much believed in me, and like I said, I barely was on the bench. I was either in a penalty box or on the ice. So.
But being the enforcer, that has made you. I mean, it made you the fan favorite, right? But when you're a kid,
or more the policeman. I don't think that
was-
McCarty went out there to
don't
fight
know.
people. I think he kept order.
When I was because when I was second fiddle, when I had Proby, when I had Joey or whatever, like when I'm the second toughest guy, you're tough.
Yeah.
Right. When I'm your enforcer, right? Because guys are so big. But I was more of why I was effective because I could play, because I played against the top lines when it needed to, but I could keep the best power forwards, the best physical guys, like on the other teams. I could fight them. They'd have to fight me. Yeah. They wouldn't fight the Joeys and the Probies and whatever, but I could keep them accountable.
At what point did you realize like March 26, 97 was going to be this? I mean, it's a date everybody remembers in Detroit sports history.
Red Wing D-Day.
Right? No, I mean everybody. I have a
It
picture in my
It changed.
But at what point did you realize, like, oh my God, this isn't just getting revenge or retribution for what Lemieux did, and launched us on to winning the cup, but this is a huge cultural event.
Not till probably years after. But the kicker to that is we had to win the cup.
Sure.
Right? So the fact that on March 26, 97, I not only slayed the dragon, but I got the girl, meaning that I kicked the living snot out of him. Uh-huh. I smashed the guy's face against the boards, kneed him in the head, got 4 minutes for roughing, a 10-minute misconduct, and scored the overtime winner. Yeah. Right? But it was because here's the thing. When I scored that goal to that game, I had this feeling come over me, and it was the, holy shit, it's going to be all right. I don't know what it means. It's going to be all right. But that was the black cloud that was lifted off of us. Now, if we don't execute and beat Colorado in the conference finals and win the Stanley Cup, that's the icing on the cake of why it changes. And I think just as you get further away from that, but like when anybody ever tells me what's your favorite or the most important moment, right? I didn't need to score the overtime goal. That's just God's way of saying fuck around and find out. Fuck around and find out, right? It is the fact that I had to get my hands on Lemieux. And the way that it happened, the way that Igor started it, the way that it played out with the goalie fights and everything like that. That was like before we had grit, we had fight.
Yeah.
Now, before that game, did somebody say, did somebody throw down the gauntlet and say, hey, who's going to take care of Lemieux tonight?
No.
This was all organic, spontaneous.
ML, here's the best part. The only thing that was ever said between any of us was when I got Drapes out of the hospital 2 days after getting his face crushed, was when I said, don't worry, I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Then I asked him where he wanted to eat, and I knew it was Noki.
I was going to say, probably get some soup, right?
No, Noki, 4 hours with a guy's jaw wired. Anyways,
exactly.
I digress.
Time to get a smoothie.
But that's it. We never talked about it, but it's like Shanny said, like everybody knew that sort of I get first crack.
Yeah.
Would the Wings ever, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Do you raise a banner for something like that? Do you ever memorial? I mean, would they? Because, like you said, the anniversary's coming.
Well, they signed photos now. You and
but I mean,
you mute.
Oh, wait a memorial.
I'll give him props, dude. That he's donated more than $20,000 to this economy for charity from us doing those signings, and that's the one reason for the 25th anniversary is I did the sit down with him, right? Is because the person and right, we're talking about recovery, we're talking about other thing, that I realized that the human being wasn't the person that it was, but it's also to listen to his truth. He didn't really fully grasp of what he'd done until later on, and it's the same thing like the end of Unrivaled, Drapes doesn't forgive him, and I probably wouldn't either, because if you're sorry, you apologize immediately. Yeah. Not after you get the shit kicked out of you, not after all that other stuff it's made down the line. So, but as a human being, I respect Claude Lemieux today.
Sure. Well, how would you want the Red Wings, how would you want them to celebrate at 30?
I wouldn't want a banner or anything like that.
I mean, what would
rather have a statue.
Of him turtling?
Yes. Dude, just like in that, like raising the flag on.
They did such a good job. They did such a good job.
They got
with
an extra
Sergei.
leg in that statue, though. Maybe we get the right number of legs.
The Sergei night was really.
How do you screw that up?
It was awesome.
It was a great event. So they can do these events really, really well. I mean,
yeah, but I don't think it needs an event. It just sort of like that's.
Yeah, it does. As a fan, it does.
What about bringing them out for grind time? Maybe you mark it that way.
What's that?
You bring them out for grind time for your wrestling program.
Claude?
You and Lemieux, get in the ring and.
You never know.
Hey,
something to look for.
You never know. Or bring them out for some cannabis events, maybe for the 30th anniversary.
He's mellow.
I don't know. I think the Wings should do something.
Well, I don't care if he uses. He's gonna be there.
What they would do, I don't know, but they're gonna do something.
Best part of Sergei's night, to me, is you got from the horse's mouth. I left. It was my fault.
Yeah.
But if I didn't leave, I wouldn't have met the love of my life and have these two kids. Everybody can relate to that.
That's life, man.
And number two, right? Steve Yzerman's the guy that I learned the most out of in hockey and in life. Mic drop. Okay, for everybody is who's Sergei and Steve? No, fuck off.
Wow. Yeah. It's hard.
And I concur. I did. I say the same thing. Steve Yzerman's taught me the most as a human being, and it, and he treated me a little bit different than Sergei, but it's all with love.
Yeah, we could do a whole
tough love, but love.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on that, but it's amazing to me that
you got to get to your job.
Anybody's learned stuff from Yzerman because
one of your five.
He seems so inscrutable, so hard to get. But you spent a lot of time with him, so maybe that's a future episode.
Yeah, no, I mean he is he's everything. The hashtag Wiser plan, and there's nobody out. Like, it's a monarchy, guys. He ain't going anywhere, whatever it is. And if you don't see that everything that he's talked about, you just have to listen when he talked. We always said he was E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. That's Steve Yzerman. Yeah. Please do that now, because when he's interviewed, he will tell you.
Quite a dated reference.
That's all right. You got it.
I got it.
Because you're old.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad he's playing the young guys. I think that this is the team he brought together, and now we see the wisdom of the plan. I guess he doesn't like it being called the Yzer plan, but
who cares?
Trust the process.
I called it.
He built
Wiser
that
plan
team in
1919.
Tampa Bay, and here it is in Detroit. So, Darren McCarty, thanks for coming in. Always great to spend time with
Pleasure,
you.
ML.
We filled in on a radio station for a week many years ago.
Absolutely.
They subsequently took it off the air, but it's not our fault.
What?
Not our fault.
No.
Those were the days.
It's fucking Marc's fault.
Yeah, no.
Everything always is.
Marc sabotage it. That or Brando.
That's right. Once they came back, they're like, hey, now we see the contrast. We can't continue this anymore. But Darren, great to have you on.
Thanks, Emma.
We'll have links to your show, to Grind Time, and to whatever else you got going. You're welcome back anytime.
I will. I'll drop some of that topical off when I get it.
Beautiful.
That's going to be a good show.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
This is
ML Sola Detroit.
Their website says
ML Sola Detroit
is 5,000 years of civilization reborn. But what the does that actually mean? According to the Chinese Communist Party,
ML Sola Detroit
is a cult who shows our propaganda hiding in plain sight. Rich coming from the CCP, but to be fair,
ML Sola Detroit
is put on by
3 idiots.